Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another wonderful morning of Chem 1105 with your host, me, Dr. White. All right, some things I want to mention before we start. I got my list here. First of all, tomorrow at the beginning of the session, I will go over my method, which I came up a number of years ago. I developed based on somebody else's method that eliminates test anxiety. If you get nervous during a test, this will help you. I've seen over the years students who have been getting F's, D's, and C's go to be high B and high A or A students. So I'll do that. I like that special effect. I will cut it out of the video because I don't want that on the internet. Maybe someday I'll be able to sell it, but you'll get it for free. Actually, it's not free. You have to pay to take my course. Also, another important thing I'll be doing tomorrow is I'll be going through how to use a calculator doing scientific notation calculations. I'll go through that tomorrow. If you don't have a calculator, I'd go buy one. You'll need it for test 1, 2, 3, 4, and the final. And if you don't have this brand, trust me, come to my office hour. I haven't found a calculator yet that I could find a manual on internet that I couldn't figure out how to help a student use. But these TI, and by the way, I don't get any money back from TI. I wish I could. Hi, buy a TI. No, never mind. But anyways, this is inexpensive. They're good. They're built like a tank. Buy one. Try it. You'll like it. Oh, I just did a generation gap on you. All right. Let's see. This, I did the method, the calculator, and finally, based on what happened during the summer, I'm going to start reminding you often. The first lab is due tomorrow. The first lab is due tomorrow. It's 10 easy points, 10. So hand it in if you have. A lot of you have. Now, one thing I want to show you, and I don't know, give me a second while I log into Blackboard. Actually, it's more than 1 second. It's a lot more than 1 second. All right, everybody should see Blackboard, and I'm in what's called student preview mode, which means you're seeing it like I'm seeing it like if I were a student as opposed to a faculty member, which is slightly different. To upload anything, including if you haven't done your student agreement, sign that and upload it. To upload labs, your test, the final, and also the student agreement. On the left, click on assignments. And notice I already have the density lab. We'll do that tomorrow, ready to go. But if you're going to hand in the safety lab or the student signature sheet or agreement, as I sometimes call it, click on like lab number 1. And then you'll see attach files and browse your local, wherever you have it, attach it. And then let me move this out of the way, hit submit. And that's how you do it. Let's go through it again. You click on assignments, click on the assignment you want. Like if I want to do the signature sheet, if you want to upload it, which some of you should do, please. Here it is, upload assignment signature sheet, attach the file, hit submit. If you have any problems, always feel free to ask me. Remember, in my class, there's no such thing as a dumb question. And let me log out of this because I don't need to be in there anymore. All right, last week we went through how to find significant figures and also how to use significant figures in calculations. And now I'd like to come back to different temperature scales to show you how to do that. Now, these scales in the past, I used to make students memorize this, but about 2 years ago already, I came to the conclusion, should I test their ability to do chemistry, meaning the students, or their memory and their ability to do students? And I figured, I'm not here to test your memory, because I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. I guess that's the people who test memory. And so I'll be giving you these formulas at the back of test number 1, but you have to know how to use them. So let's take a look at this. Oh. Everybody take a deep breath, let it out. Do you remember that air is a mixture and it's homogeneous? Think about that. But anyways, you're gonna do some relaxed math and also relaxed word problems. I'll show you how to do them successfully. In the past, I've had a number of students tell me, well, I wish I'd learned how you teach how to do relaxed word problems. When I took math, I would have done a lot better. But anyways, let's look at how to use the temperature scales. I forgot I shouldn't, not now, but email me if you can't read cursive. If you can't read, that's the word if, let me know. And I'll print, for now, I'll print. All right, let me decode this in case you can't read my handwriting. If the temperature outside is 24.5 degrees C, then what is the temperature in degrees F? This is a word problem. Now, when I approach word problems, and trust me, undergrad and grad school, I took more tests than you have so far in your career. And one of the things I found that helped me with these types of things, and my students have found the same thing in the past, is what am I being asked to find? And I don't know how I came about it, but I put a question mark and what am I trying to find? Degrees F. What am I given? 24.5 degrees C. And if you look back, this will be an important information. Test number 1, degrees F equal 1.8 times degrees C plus 32. Now look at the bottom where it says, please note, 1.8, 32, and later on when we do 273 are exact numbers, and they don't play a role in how many significant figures your answer is. So let's look at the formula, which you'll have. I want to get to degrees F, and I'm at degrees C, so I'll use this formula. And now I'll put in my degrees C. And remember, do the multiplication first, then the addition. Remember, both 1.8 is an exact number and 32 is an exact number. And therefore, The only thing that will determine how many significant figures your answer has is this. How many significant figures? Hopefully all picked 3. So my answer should have 3. And now I'm going to go to my calculator, actually for this class, so you can see what I'm doing. Oops, I first have to open it. And then I got to make sure you can see it. All right, so I'll take 1.8 times 24.5. I get this number plus 32. And that's not what I want to do. Now it will be. And I get 76.10000, but this is an easy one. How do you round it off to 3 significant figures? Well, you keep the 7, keep the 6, keep the 1, and that'd be 76.1. Now, if this had been in scientific notation, be 7.61 times 10 to the first, which is the correct answer, either one, because Dr. White knows scientific notation, knows how to go back and forth. All right, let's have you try one. I have 3 points, and more likely, this is a little more work. I probably would have 4 points. Now, if you don't have a calculator, just set it up. And why don't you try this one? Why don't you just set it up? First, find out what are you being asked to find, what are you given, and what formulas should you use? Hint. If you don't have a calculator, you don't have to calculate it. And by the way, thank you for coming today. I do take attendance. For those who don't know, Zoom has a feature that I can look at your login names. All right, I think everybody's done. Let's do this. All right, now, what are we being asked to find? What's the outside temperature in degrees F? And again, you don't have to do a question mark, but I try and tell myself, here's what I'm trying to find. What are you given? The outside temperature in degrees C. Let me remind you, that's how I write my 7. I think I told you the story about that. And now we know degrees F, and you'll be given this formula on the last page, is equal to 1.8 times degrees C plus 32. Don't forget, these are exact numbers, 1.8 and 32. So the only number that will determine significant figures is what's degrees C. And now I'll put that in. And it's time to go to my calculator. Ha, that's unusual. Usually I don't have that, where it's already easy to find out. That's 3 significant figures. So the answer would be 45.7. So let me go back to here. Now, important thing I want to teach you right now. On my test, since I don't do multiple choice tests, thank goodness. I don't know if I told you this one, I teach, I better do this full screen. One, I teach by my golden rule of teaching. What's that? That's I don't do unto my students what I didn't like done to me when I was a student. I hate with a passion multiple choice tests because they're designed to trick you, not to have you show, here's what I know how to do. No, I'm going to trick you. And they do a good job at that. Now, sometimes in my test, I will put some multiple choice questions, but never more than 10 points out of 100, because a couple questions are good to put down multiple choice, but a whole test, no. So what that means is if you show your work and get the wrong answer, and I say, oh, you pushed the wrong button on your calculator, trust me, that happens, even happens to me. I'll give you almost all the points. Say, I'll take off 1 point because you made a math error. If you show no work and you get the wrong answer, you get 0 points. That's a big 0, which is not good. So it always shows on my page to show your work on my test. All right, somebody says I got something wrong, which I might have. Let's go back and look at this. 13.7. Let me go back to my spreadsheet. Ah, I see where I made a mistake too. Bad Dr. White. Forgot to multiply 13.7 times 1.8. And now I get this number. Thank you for correcting my error. What I didn't do was, and all of you who came back said I made a mistake. I did. And thank you for correcting me, not for making a mistake, bad Dr. White. But all right, now we got something to round off. 55.66, round that off to 3 significant figures. I'll give you 3 seconds, go. Actually, I gave you more than 3 seconds. Keep the 5, keep the 6, keep the second 6. That's my 3 significant figures. Use the next 6 to round off. Is that 4 or less or 5 or higher? It's 5 or higher, so I'll drop that and all the zeros. And the 6 in front, I'll increase to 7, and that would be 56.7. I guess if I had done this and it was 4 points, I'd get 3 points because I showed my work, but I definitely made a math error there. I forgot to multiply. So The correct answer is 56.7. And that's how you use that formula. All right, let's look at another formula. Who do I have time? Quick time. Whenever I was in Europe, back when I used to go, and I don't know about now, it's been a long time since I've been in Europe. When I worked for 2 Dutch companies, I used to go to Europe at least 4 times a year for about a decade. When I go there, I'd be there for 2 to 4 weeks. And if I got up in the morning, I was, what do I wear today? And you'd hear the news report the weather in centigrade. And I'd always in my mind have to calculate it to Fahrenheit, because that's what I am familiar with, what kind of clothes I should wear. All right, let's do another one. All right, if the temperature of beaker water, I hope you all will learn soon. If you don't know, water is H2O, and I'm a chemist. I'm going to use the chemical formula. I'm not going to write out water, is 38.9 degrees F, then what's the temperature in degrees C? So the first thing I'm going to do is, what am I being asked to find? Degrees C, right here. What's the temperature in degrees C? What am I given? The temperature in degrees F. And now, if you look at the following formula, which you will be given, but you have to know how to use, degrees C equals degrees F minus 32 minus 1.8. Again, you don't have to memorize it, but you do have to know how to use it and when to use it. And this is when. Hold on 1 second. There we go. All right, so degrees C equals degrees F minus 32. Dr. White's memorized these because I've used them enough, divided by 1.8. Now, what's degree? We took the time to figure out what's degrees F, so I can put 38.9 degrees F minus 32 over 1.8. Now, listen carefully. A common mistake on test 1 students make is they divide each of these numbers, degrees F and 32 by 1.8, and then do the subtraction. Wrong. Do the subtraction first, then divide by 1.8. So I'll subtract by 32, divide by 1.8, and here's the number I get. Now, if you remember, the number degrees C was 3 significant figures. And since the other 1.8 and 32 are exact numbers, my answer should be 3 significant figures. I'll let you round off 3.833333 to 3 significant figures. Wow, there's a lot of 3s there. I'll give you more than 3 seconds. Time's up. Keep the 3, keep the 8, keep the 3 after the 8. Those are my 3 significant figures. The next number is a 3. Is that 4 or less? Yes. So I drop all that. The answer is 3.83. And let's do one more. All right, if the outside temperature is 121 degrees F, which I hope it won't be, but then what is this? What is it in degrees C? Why don't you just try setting it up and let me help you out a little. Hint, use this formula. If you don't have a calculator, just set it up. All right, I think everybody's done. Let's do it. What are we being asked? And this would be probably 4 points if you ever saw it on a piece of something I hand out called a test. Hint, if the outside temperature is 121 degrees F, what's it in degrees C? So we're trying to find degrees C. And therefore, degrees C equals degrees F minus 32 divided by 1.8. Since I took the time to read this and put this number here, I can put it immediately right in. And that saves time. One of the things I've learned from all the tests I've taken, the more I let the paper do the thinking, the better I do on the test. How can a paper think? Well, you write down the important stuff here so you don't get confused by the words up above. All right, and now it's time to go to my calculator. Remember, common mistake, students try and divide each number by 1.8 and then subtract it. No, you do the subtraction first. And that's the number I get. And I'll let you round that off to 3 significant figures. Time's up. Keep the 4, keep the 9, keep the second 4. And this 4 right here is 4 or less. Obviously, it's 4 or less because it's 4. And you drop it, and the answer would be 49.4. And that's what you do. Now, let's look at the last formula. And that's Kelvin. Kelvin equals degrees C plus 273. And Kelvin is an absolute, and therefore that's why we don't use degrees. Now, 273 is an exact number. Now, I will never write out Kelvin or Celsius or Fahrenheit. I'll use the symbols, which is something you need to know. So let's take a look at this. What is the temperature of a gas at 101.5 degrees C in Kelvin? So what are we trying to find? Kelvin. What are we given? 101.5 degrees C. And Kelvin equals degrees C plus 273. Remember, 273 is an exact number, which means it plays no role in figuring out how many significant figures your answer should have. Now, I'll put in the 101.5 added to 273, and I will get 374.5 Kelvin. Am I done? Yes, because this has one past the decimal, and we're adding, this has an exact number, so I have one past the decimal. Remember, the number you're starting with determines when there's only, that's the only significant figure, this right here, because this is an exact number. Your turn to have some fun. See how nice Dr. White is? He shares the fun. Now, I'm going to give you a big hint on a test I won't. Hint. And if we were in a class, I'd say when you're done, look up and smile. But since some of you don't have your webcam on, I can't do that. So I'm going to take a poll, as they call it in Zoom. And the votes are coming in. All right, looks like just about everyone is done, so I better get to work. So when I look at a problem like this, a word problem, I ask, what am I being asked to find? And the answer is Kelvin. And I use a question mark to let me know that. Next, what am I given? This. That's the only number I have to work with. And I know Kelvin equals, and this you'll be given, degrees C plus 273. I'll do the math. This is an exact number. I'm doing an addition. So you have the same number of significant figures to the right of the decimal. You don't mess with the stuff on the left as the number that has the fewest, and this is the only number one. So here's my answer. And I'm done. And that's how you'd use these formulas. And again, these formulas, you've seen how I do this, and they're practice problems. And guess what? We're done with chapter 1. I skipped that to get into appendix A2 and A4, but we're done with that. So what does that mean? That means tomorrow I will go through chapter 1 practice problems. If you haven't done them, do them today. Find some time. They're not that hard. Do them. Do you have to do all of them? No. But the more you do, the more practice you get. And practice helps your grade, which I think all of you, I hope, want to get a good grade. I hope you do. All right. Public service announcement from Dr. White. Don't forget to memorize the 37 chemical symbols I asked you to learn, like O is oxygen. You should know that, not for the whole periodic table, but just for those 37. Also, a real public service announcement for me. Don't forget, I don't have one handy up here, but wear your mask when you're out today. If you go out, if you haven't gotten your vaccination shots, get them. I usually react badly to shots like that. I had almost no reaction to the Pfizer, which is mainly the prevalent one, I believe, in Northern Illinois, which we all live in. And get it. It's free. It's easy. It'll keep you alive. If you look at the news, people who are your age group are getting really sick because they haven't gotten their vaccination. All right, let's go back to appendix A2, A4. Remember, I ended up with significant figures on multiplication, division, and also addition. We don't really do subtraction in this class. And there's a problem set for this we'll go through, which I'd recommend you do it. All right, let's move on. All right, next couple of slides. I'm turning the switch click to the off position, but I still want to go through it, meaning it won't be on the test, almost all of it, but one will. And I'll tell you when. All right, when we talk about measurements, there are two main measurement systems. One is the English, which we use in the United States, and the other is the metric, which most of the rest of the world uses, other than England and some of the British colonies. And just about everybody else uses metric. Now, the metric system, I won't ask you this, comes from the Greek word metro, which means to measure. And a couple of years ago, I had students who were from Greece, and they confirmed that's what it means, because I don't speak Greek. Now, I don't know why this got to lower. That's better. All right, the metric unit for distance or length is a meter. And I won't ask you to switch this off, but 1 meter equals 100 centimeters, and 1,000 meters. Think of a meter as just a little more than a yard, the English method, and 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. And if you look at your speedometer, your car, somebody else's, most of our cars have, because if we go into Canada, they don't have miles per hour, they have kilometers per hour for their speed limit. If you haven't been to Canada or especially Niagara Falls, you're missing a lot. Get there. But anyways, that's length and metric system. The metric system for volume is the liter. 1 liter equals 1,000 cubic centimeters, which abbreviated, I guess, switches off for this CM superscript 3. And if you look at syringes, most syringes have that CM3 on it. If you look at the medical syringes. Now, 1 liter equals 1,000 milliliters. And if you look at things like a water bottle, you'll see this one, when full, has 700 milliliters. And again, 1 milliliter is equal to 1 cubic centimeter. Now, the units for mass, meaning weight, is a gram. Now, mass is a measure of total quantity, and weight, which doesn't involve gravitational pull, weight is a measure using gravity. And since I already determined that none of us are leaving the planet for the rest of the semester, we'll use them interchangeably. And the important thing is 1,000 grams equals 1 kilogram. Again, switches off. I'll never ask you what's a kilogram, but just in case do you ever watch Miami Vice, which I don't know if they still even have, that was a great TV program when I was back in, I think in the 90s, 1990s, which I guess was before a lot of you were born. But anyways, it was a crime program in Miami. Or if you watch TV or movies, you'll see where the evil drug people are bringing in something like cocaine. They say there'll be 150 or 1,000 keys coming in at midnight. What's a key? That's shorthand for kilogram, which is also 2.2 pounds. That was a good program, Miami Vice. I'll have to look for it. I wonder if it's now. And turn click to switch back on. Now, there are certain key prefixes that are multipliers. Like a gram is 1, but a kilogram is 1,000 grams. You should know that a kilo is 10 to the third, which is also 1,000. You should also know centi is 100th centimeter. You should also know milli is 1,000, which I have here. 10 to the minus 2 is 100th. 10 to the minus 3 is 1,000. So it takes 1,000 milliliters to make 1 liter. And these are, I have a few others. For those of you who are doing things with computers, you've heard of megabytes and gigabytes. One's a million, the other's a billion. And very small, nano, which if you've been following since 1996, nanoparticles in chemistry in our daily life getting more and more important. That's a billionth, 1 billionth of something. I'm not going to write it out. 1 billionth. But the ones I want you to know kilo is 1,000. Centi is 100th, 10 to the minus 2. And by the way, kilo is 10 to the third times whatever. And you should know milli is 10 to the minus third, 1,000. So you should know those. Now, in the book, they have something called dimensional analysis. I like the older word, unit analysis. And this is a way of converting from one unit to another type of unit. And example, if you had 12 inches, how many feet is that? If you had 36 inches, how many feet is 36 inches? Use unit analysis. Now, I will be covering this later. It makes no sense to cover it now when we won't be using it for a number of weeks. When we do, I will teach you unit analysis because you'll find out unit analysis is your good buddy, your good friend. It's been my good buddy, good friend since high school. I was lucky enough in AP chemistry in high school. I still remember his name, great teacher, Mr. Solners, obviously is no longer alive, sad but true, taught me and everybody else in the class unit analysis, actually drummed it into our head. Now, I will not put this on a test, but I'll talk about tomorrow density. Density is a ratio of mass of an object to the volume. Density, to click, the switch is off, but I'll do this tomorrow. Oh no, guess what? It's time for a new chapter. It's new chapter time. And with that, I still got a couple minutes. Let's do a new chapter. And that new chapter is chapter 2. And that deals with atoms and atomic structure. Now, first, a commercial from Dr. White. Don't forget to learn your chemical symbols. The ones you have to learn are these, only 37. You should know Ni is nickel. I ask on test, what's the chemical symbol for nickel? Ni. If I ask on test, Ni is what element? Nickel. Same thing for Br. What's the chemical symbol for bromine? Br. What's Br? Bromine. Now, in the book, they talk about mole and molar mass. I'm going to cover it later when it makes more sense to cover it. Now, I already talked about this, but let's go through it again. Chemical formula. I'll never ask what is a chemical formula, but it's a notation made up of symbols of elements present in a compound and numerical subscripts located right at a symbol that indicate the number of atoms present in each molecule, in the molecule of a compound. And let's do a couple examples. Whoops, wrong color. How many atoms are in KCl? Your turn. And the answer is 2. 1 potassium, 1 chlorine, 2 atoms. And why don't you try this one? How many atoms are in calcium nitrate? Ca bracket NO3 bracket subscript 2. All right, let's do it. This is 1. Now, inside the bracket, you multiply the number of atoms inside times the subscript outside of the bracket. So there's 2 nitrogen and 2 times 6, 2 times 3, I got ahead of myself, 6, and 9 atoms, if I did my math correctly. Speaking about correctly, oh no. Time flies when you're having fun with chemistry and Dr. White. We're done for today. Wow, that just went Zoom. Hope it went Zoom for you. With that, don't forget, wear a mask, get your vaccination. I have my office hour tonight. Don't forget, tomorrow I'll teach you in the beginning of the lecture about how to eliminate test anxiety. Don't forget to hand your lab in. And finally, goodbye, gain gesund, be healthy, go in health. And I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Remember, tomorrow we start at 9. Gain gesund, bye.